Hi, everyone, and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm Anthony Pastori. Financial survivor's guilt. It is a real thing, especially for athletes and entertainers who come into wealth very suddenly. This guilt can often lead to detrimental financial behaviors. So today we're going to be discussing how individuals can overcome the guilt that sudden wealth can bring, especially in this particular client segment. And joining me now for this conversation is Wale Ogunleye from UBS. Wale, great to have you joining us. Good to see you, my friend.
Anthony, thanks for having me, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. You're looking sharp, Wale. So listen, you and your team run the athletes and entertainers client segment. And within that, you talk a lot about how athletes and entertainers should be thinking about their own finances. You did release a white paper, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But before we get there, just remind our audience, because you haven't been on with us in a little bit, who the athletes and entertainment segment is designed for and what your mission is at UBS.
Well, it's almost, self-explanatory, but really at the end of the day, it's for our high-profile clients and prospects. When we think about UBS, we know we're the global leader in wealth management. But what we want to do is change the way the industry has approached this segment, looking at the people and the athletes and entertainers that we want to service, understanding who they are, the communities they come from, and why it's important for us to help them build their legacy off the stage, off the court, off the field. And having UBS's expertise, in addition to having the knowledge and the intellectual capital that we're creating, especially with this white paper that we're going to come talk about, we feel like it's a game changer. For me, I get to work with the best advisors in the world and try to solve for some of the problems that plague this industry. But more importantly for us, we want to make sure that we're having real relationships. Too many times, the financial institution looks at this segment and it's all transactional. It's about how much money can we get from these clients, from this industry. And at the end of the day, when their careers are all gone and the 15 minutes of fame has expired, no one's there to help them move into the next transition of their lives. So the athlete and entertainer segment is really geared at, one, focusing around financial education, two, upskilling our advisors and making sure they understand who and why it's important that our clients are served the right way. And then lastly, dealing with our clients themselves, making sure that when it comes to giving back, when it comes to philanthropic endeavors, that we hold the hands of our clients and make sure that their legacy is built extremely strong on the back end.
Yeah, thanks, Wale. I love how you said real relationships. I think that's a really important aspect of especially when it comes to finance, because you're right. Some things can become all of a sudden transactional, and there's no actual connection between the financial advisor and their client, particularly in this segment, which brings me to the white paper. You and your team wrote a white paper called Sudden Wealth, and the tagline is How Athletes and Entertainers Overcome Financial Survivor's Guilt. It's a really fascinating read. I very much enjoyed looking through it. I'm really excited to talk about it with you, but it talks about how athletes and entertainers who come into sudden wealth can be overwhelmed by guilt. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that. As a former pro athlete yourself, I know you can really speak to this on a personal level.
Yeah. What's great about this, and again, I talked about it a little bit earlier about, creating content that creates the conversations that we need to have with our clients. This white paper is the first out of a 3-part series. We created this series called The Psychology of Money. When it comes to our athletes and entertainers, we want to really understand the things and the factors and the situations and the relationships that cause people to have any type of idea or their relationship with money. What comes into that? And this white paper, the first of 3, is called Sudden Wealth. And for this part, where I think it's hard for people to understand, is that a lot of our athletes and entertainers, when they reach the pinnacle of their stardom and they're making unbelievable amounts of money, guilt sets in, and because they're coming from places where maybe, one, they never had money, two, they might not even have an understanding of what money really was, an education of how to spend and take care of people in their ecosystem. And that guilt says, hey, I don't understand why I'm the one that's been singled out. I don't understand why I'm the one that has been given all this money. I am now considered the breadwinner for not only for my house, but maybe for my city or for my community. And that level of guilt can lead to some disastrous decisions if not managed, if not talked about, but more importantly, if we as financial institutions don't understand the behaviors that look like when someone's having guilty decisions and having a problem with the wealth that they have, can lead our clients into some problems.
Yeah,
so this white paper for us really gives us an opportunity to discuss that and push the needle forward when we're trying to solve for solutions.
Yeah, and what I loved about the white paper itself, Wale, which I think was such a brilliant decision on you and your team's part, was to actually interview real people. You had an interview with Chamillionaire. He's a musician, entrepreneur, been in the business for a long time, but he was talking about how when he first started out, the guilt that he felt, growing up in a lower socioeconomic area, where he grew up was, was not impoverished, but people weren't making this kind of money. And he remembers his mom working so hard, she was eating cereal at night just to basically make ends meet to help him, and further his education and his career. So, it's fascinating to hear someone talk about their own experience. We automatically think, oh, they're millionaires, everything must just be perfect. Now they've got all this money, but you forget about the psychological side of it. And so for you, as I mentioned, you're a former NFL player. Did you ever have these feelings of guilt in your own life as a former athlete?
Absolutely. I came, my parents are immigrants, so we moved to New York City. We lived in a projects called Park Hill Projects in Staten Island, New York. And we're surrounded by thousands of people, all living, some of them living on government assistance. Some of them are living on Section 8. And you think about it from my perspective, like I said, I was a good athlete, but was I the best athlete in my community? Probably not. Was I the smartest kid in my high school? Probably not. Was I the fastest, the strongest? So in my own sense, I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't deserve the biggest contract in the history of an undrafted free agent, of a restricted free agent in NFL history. What did I do besides run around and tackle people that I deserve all this money? And I have people that I grew up with that are doctors, that are teachers, that are janitors, that are just striving to make ends meet, living check to check. That sense of guilt set in for me. And when I would go back to the neighborhood, I would see how people were struggling. I would see the same families and friends that I grew up with still living check to check, still trying to make ends meet. And I remember those days. And for me, I felt like I had to try to find ways to help people. And that guilt led me into spending money like I probably shouldn't have spent, and not having a real plan of how can I really help people not just throwing money at a problem. And that's why I think this paper is really, really important for us, because it gets behind the curtain on how people think about their sudden wealth, and really the feelings of the people around them in the ecosystem of these entertainers and these athletes feeling like it's their duty now to make sure that they save the whole community.
Right. Thank you for being so open and transparent about that, Wale. And I appreciate you being real here, because that's what this is all about. You're a person who has an experience that is very relatable to so many artists and athletes. And I think it's really incredible that you're sharing that here too. What would you say? I mean, challenges abound. There's lots of challenges no matter what. But in this particular scenario, what kind of challenges did you face? Did it ever, get in your head? Did it affect the way you played? Did it affect the way you thought? Your education. What kind of challenges did you face?
The biggest challenge is, I think, what we want the industry and we want our financial advisors to understand is that, our salaries, and I'll say our, but athletes and entertainers' salaries are almost public knowledge. And that's a disadvantage, right? Now you've got people who are trying to prey on you, but more importantly, people that you love and care know exactly how much money you're supposed to be making. So it's hard for an individual to go on Instagram and get on a private jet, but then his uncle may say, hey, listen, I'm having problems paying my bills. How can I say no to the uncle? He just saw that I got on a private jet the other day, or he saw my salary in the headlines of the New York Times. So those type of issues come about when it comes to dealing with entertainers, right? The money they make is for the world to see, which brings so much more headache to individuals that make this type of money in quick, fast ways. Now, if you have this money for a long period of time and this is something you're used to, you probably know the tricks of the trade and know how to get out of feeling this guilt. But if it's thrust upon you the way a lot of these young athletes and entertainers have, it's really hard to say no. And that's the biggest problem, is that everybody knows how much money you have. And you, again, feel like you have the bandwidth to save everyone. And the truth of the matter is that's not true.
Right. You know, it's interesting. You brought up such a good point. Imagine if all of our salaries, everybody who works, their salaries were just something you could search for on Google. Right. That would change the way we think about everything on our financial lives. So thanks for sharing that, Wally. So as we're wrapping up, let's talk to those individuals watching this today who have come into this sudden wealth and they're dealing with these feelings of guilt. How do you recommend they deal with them constructively in order to make better financial decisions for themselves, for their families, for their communities?
Right. Well, one, I would tell you to read the white paper for one. I think there's some good key nuggets in there for everyone. But like we said earlier, you can't save everyone, right? We have to set boundaries on who we're going to be financially responsible for, right? We're not saying don't take care of grandmother, don't take care of your mom and dad and your family. But, there's got to be boundaries. We do not have, and you do not have, the bandwidth to help every single person that needs help. But if you set up a structure of this is who I'm responsible for, and then we can set up a plan for that, all right, let's do that. Number two, I would say, which probably should be number one, but understand that it's only really 15 minutes you're going to have in a spotlight. Everyone's not going to be a Madonna or a Tom Brady. There's going to be probably more of the Wale Ogunleyas of the world that you play a short period of time. Even though I played 11 years, I mean, that's still an anomaly, but it's still going to be a short period of time that you have in a spotlight. Know that the money that you make in this short period of time must last a lifetime. So that's number two. Number three, I would say, with this guilt, we understand that you're going to give back, but let's give back responsibly. Be very intentional on how you give back, on how it doesn't have to be your favorite charity, but if you're going to set up a system, set up something that is intentional and at the end of the day is rewarding for you. And that may help alleviate some of the guilt that you face with the amount of money you make. Lastly, obviously, I'm going to talk about finding the best financial institution, really reputable institution that can help you strategize and make sure that the money that you make is going to be here for years and years to come, for your family, for your kids and their kids' kids. Because let's be honest, it's the contracts that you're seeing now with these young athletes and entertainers are amazing. But you're also seeing the bankruptcies. You're also seeing people being taken advantage of. Make sure you're with reputable advisors, a reputable firm, and that they have your best interests at heart. And it's not a transaction. So have relationships with your financial advisors and make sure that they understand exactly why it's important for you to have this money years down the road.
That's great. Wally, listen, yeah, you're right. Not everybody's going to get a multi-million-dollar endorsement deal or go sit, on a desk at ESPN or, call games. So you're right. You have to have a plan, and working with an advisor is certainly a really good way to do that. Wally, thank you so much. Thanks again for being so open and transparent. And again, Sudden Wealth is the brand new white paper from Wally and his team. It's in a series called Psychology of Money. So I know, Wally, we're going to talk to you more about this in the future. Thanks for joining us today, sir.
Thank you, Anthony. Anytime.
Thanks, Wally. And for more information, there's a great website you can visit, ubs.com/athletes-entertainers. Great information there for anybody who would like to follow along with this client segment. And you can make sure to follow UBS in general on all of our social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our past UBS Trending episodes on demand at ubs.com/studios. And the UBS YouTube channel. And as always, if you do have any questions, as we always recommend, please speak with a financial advisor. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. We hope you have a fantastic day. And remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. We'll see you soon, everybody.